You know, in life, there's limitations, surely, but some limitations people tell you about you. And it's going to be your decision how you respond to that. David had a lot of limitations put on him by others. If you remember that scripture just read, David's father, when Samuel said, "I want to pick out a king of your sons," he has 8 sons, and he lines up 7 of them. And he didn't include David. He didn't even include him as a possible person that Samuel would anoint for king. So his own father didn't think he had king potential. He thought, I'll just show him these 7. And they're older, and they look stronger, and they look like the kind of guys that might be king. But then Samuel said, it's not one of these. He sees number 7, he said, boy, or the first one, he said, boy, this guy's strong and big. And part of being a king then was being a warrior, like commander-in-chief, but really get out there and do it. And he said, the first one, oh wow, this guy's going to be great. I think this is it. And on down the line, 8, 7, 6, 5, down the line, and finally he says, none of these guys, I thought God said there was someone in your family. Do you have another son? He says, yeah, there's one, young guy, he's out tending the sheep, just like the side job. Call him in. So even his dad didn't think he had king potential. We'll come back to that, but then he goes on later to, David was sent out to bring food to his brothers on the front lines. Here, bring him some food. We don't do that now, do we? We send, what's those dried out good meals of those? What is it? MREs. They didn't have MREs, so they had to have some food from home sent out. So David sends them out to, his dad says, bring this to your brothers. So he comes out and he hears Goliath taunting the Israelites, who's God's people, and saying, you send out your best warrior and fight me, and whoever wins basically we take over. Well, nobody, it says 9 feet tall. Now that sounds pretty tall, but I looked it up once, and people actually, if they had a pituitary gland problem, they could actually grow that big. So it's not a fantasy story, it's a real story. And so nobody wants to fight, with a sword, some guy who's 9 feet tall. David hears this, and he's thinking, I can do it, God will help me. But his brothers said, why aren't you tending those little flock of sheep? It says about that little, so they're saying, your job, go back to your little job. And by the way, who's taking care of the sheep while you're here? Like, you're irresponsible. So the brother's saying, you got this little job, you're irresponsible. He says, in fact, you're conceited that you think you could do this. His brothers, it's all in the Bible. Not maybe this is. He says, what makes you think you can do this? You're conceited. You're even evil that you think you could do this. So his brothers didn't think he had warrior potential. When Saul heard, the king at the time heard that somebody would fight Goliath, he says, send for that guy, and here comes David, the teenager. And David says, I can do it. And he tries to put on his armor and everything, and it's too big for him. He's a teenager, he's not a full-grown man yet, and it doesn't fit him. But he says, I can do it. But Saul didn't think he had warrior potential, but he was desperate, so he said, oh yeah, go ahead. It wasn't going to hurt him if David went, go ahead, I don't think you have warrior potential, but hey, go for it. And then when David goes out to fight Goliath, Goliath doesn't think he's even a worthy, he doesn't have opponent potential. Who sent this young boy with a stick, slingshot? I don't think they allow that anymore. There's so many toys that you're not allowed that we had when we were little. I don't think they're allowed slingshots anymore, but he had a slingshot. It wasn't a toy. He really used it. But Goliath didn't even think he had opponent potential. But David had something that the others didn't realize. He had God potential. He had a faith in God that was going to make a difference. And it started not when there was a crisis. It started on his everyday job. His everyday job, he was sometimes singing to God. Talking about put on some Christian music if you can't sing. But we have all these songs that David wrote. He's singing to God. It says, He's the only one in the Bible that God refers to as a man after my own heart. That he just loved God. From a young boy on up, he loved God. And he trusted God too. And so he said, there was time that a bear came after the sheep. He said, and I went after him with my slingshot. So he had courage. God had helped him. He said, there's another time a lion, it's all in the Bible, it's in 1 Samuel. The lion went after my sheep, and I went after him, and God helped me. He said, this Philistine is going to be no different. Do you say that to yourself? Remember when God helped us before. Do you think about that? If you think of things that we've been through as a church, remember when we thought things were so bad, but God helped us before. Do you do that in your everyday life? You think, oh man, I remember when I was so worried about something and I prayed and God helped me. I wasn't left alone. Somehow help came or I made it through. A week ago I said, I looked in the Bible, it says remember 221 times, and the remember is remember how great God is. Remember God's character. Remember that he's helped before. Remember when it's God's will, God provides. David wasn't doing this for his own honor, although there was a reward. But he wasn't doing it for his own honor. He said, who would dishonor the living God? That's what he said. This giant is dishonoring the living God. He knew who he was talking about. Not a God that's in my mind, not just a positive thought, a live being. Who would dishonor the living God? I'm going to take care of that. God's going to help me show that he is real. So David wanted to do this. He wanted to honor the living God. We all have God potential, but we have to, you know how it comes out? Faith. Faith. That's what brings it out. And they even call it risk-taking mission. Remember when they tell us to step out and do things? And so David wasn't just sitting in his lazy boy thinking, oh, God's pretty good. No, he had to go out even and be in danger. When he fought a lion and a bear and when Goliath, he put his faith to the test. He said, not only am I not giving up, I'm going to face this giant head on. And he said, and God's going to help me because God is faithful. I don't think they've written that hymn yet, Great is Thy Faithfulness. That's one of our favorites. But that means I know God's character. It hasn't changed. It's a good God, a powerful God. And when it comes to doing good and doing God's will, that's when God can help me. He said, David had God potential because of his faith. His faith. He knew who God was. He said, he's a living God. He's helped me before, and he'll help me again. And that made the difference. We don't have to let the limitations that others put on us limit us. Or even the limitations that we have to put in our own heads. You know, David didn't have low self-esteem and he didn't have high self-esteem. He had God potential. It wasn't that he thought, he could have gone in low self-esteem and agreed, yeah, I'm just young. Yeah, I'm inexperienced. Yeah, there's people stronger than me. All that was true. All that was true. But he didn't dwell on what he didn't have. He said, I'll give God what I do have. I'll give God what I do have. And God will multiply that. That's what he believed. He said, I've got the slingshot. I've got something. And what I do have, I will give to God. I will step out in faith and give God what I do have and let him multiply that. So it's a God potential. And it's not looking at what you don't have, but looking up to God. And that's what David did. And that's what made the difference of how he became a hero of the faith. because he let God empower him. And yes, he had to be brave. He had to be brave. He had to step out in faith. He had to keep going. He had to not give up. It seemed like the other soldiers around us were said, I'm sort of giving up. It's looking pretty bad. That's the only report they had. That's not how God works. Remember we said, sorrow looks back, worry looks around, and faith looks up. Can you say that with me? Sorry looks back, worry looks around, but faith looks up. That's what made the difference for David. That's what made him a hero of the faith. His God potential. He said, I see that it's bad. I'm sort of like, my muscles aren't as big as that. God, I see all that, but I see God is bigger. I see God is bigger than any problem. I see God is able. I see that God has helped us before. And I want to honor God. He said, my intentions are right. I want to honor God. And so I believe God's going to help me. And I'm going to step out. And I'm going to do God's work. And sure enough, the living God, the God he trusted, did not let him down. His God is able. God is able, right? Our living God. I hope we can all be heroes in our own little corners of the world, heroes of faith, that we are going to look up and say, I serve a living God. And he's going to take whatever little potential, whatever little thing I can do, and I'm going to let him multiply that. And I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to look around and get worried, but I'm going to look up.